Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a brand new mono-red Planeswalker to enter Puzzle Quest with Dominaria United, Jaya Fiery Negotiator. So, let's get into it. I want to give a really quick shout out and thank you to Oktagon for sending me this Planeswalker so that I could test it out and ultimately make this video for you all. So thank you to all you guys at the studio. I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate your continued support of my channel. Now, if you can see, there's a little bit of a difference this time. So I'd love some feedback from you all in the comment section. Just let me know if you like how I have this set up and how I'm going to be doing the structure of this video as opposed to how I normally do my Planeswalker reviews when a new walker comes out. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to show off the Planeswalker at each abilities level. So you'll see that I've got the abilities at levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm just going to give a quick rundown of each of the abilities, the sort of TLDR of them, as I've already made a video going in depth into all of the new Planeswalkers abilities. So you can see that on my channel. It's the one about new Planeswalkers from Dominaria United. Now, Jaya Fiery Negotiator's 3 abilities are really based around spells, loosely, right? So the first ability at all ranks is going to fetch a spell. It's going to get mana, and then you're going to convert gems to red. The second ability is going to be exiling a spell from your graveyard and or library, and then you're going to get copies of that spell with full mana. So 1 or 2 copies. And then finally, the third ability is going to create these new red monk tokens, and those red monk tokens are going to have prowess, which is going to make it so that when you cast a spell or support, they get a power toughness boost equal to the number of reinforcements it has. And then ultimately, it's also going to be adding some damage to an opposing creature as well. You'll see that Jaya Fiery Negotiator has this magical +9 to red for her mana bonus at level 60, which gives her a tie with Koth for the singular highest mana bonus in the game. So this is absolutely an S+ tier mana bonus at the very least as we look at Jaya and her abilities. You'll see that it takes a little while for her to actually get any bonus apart from the +6 that she starts with, right? Because at level 30, she's still sitting at +6. And then in that 16 level jump from 30 to 46 is where it jumps to 8. And then finally to 9 at the end. So her mana bonus out the box is really good. +6 to red means that so long as you have some of the converters that are available to us right now, you're going to get a heck of a lot out of Jaya's kit because you're going to be able to get a ton of mana, and then you're going to be able to fetch some stuff and do some cool things as well. In terms of what level you personally are going to want to have Jaya at, I always recommend that a player gets the Planeswalker to level 60. However, I recognize that not everyone has the maximum number of runes. So if we take a look at her abilities and we just look at benchmarks for each one, the first ability is pretty good no matter what. It just comes down to if you want to be able to pick which spell you're going to be fetching from your library or if you're content with just fetching the first one. Furthermore, I happen to think that the converting more gems to red definitely makes the ability significantly stronger because of how powerful her mana bonus is. So I think that the first ability is good regardless of rank, but rank 4 is definitely the best. For the second ability, I would strongly recommend that you try and push this one to be able to get the 2 copies. You'll see that this ability right here has copy the last spell from your exile and give it full mana, and then copy the last spell from your exile again and give it full mana. So you're going to get 2 copies with full mana over here at rank 4. And then you'll see that over here at rank 3, you're also going to get the 2 copies with full mana, which is really, really nice. Whereas with ranks 1 and 2, you're just going to get 1 copy. So I think you're going to get the most out of this ability starting at rank 3, which is pretty close to 46. It's going to be in those 40s. So if you can rank Jaya up, you'll get a lot more out of the second ability. And then as for the third ability, the red monk tokens are all really good. I don't think that there's a really big difference between you getting 4 tokens and getting 6 tokens. So I think that really the sweet spot for you is ultimately going to come down to if you have enough runes to power her up, get the second ability at least to rank 3. and then that's pretty good. You don't need to get this final ability to rank 3 if you don't have the runes for it. But if you do have the runes, naturally, Jaya is going to be best at level 60. As I established, Jaya is really a planeswalker that gets better with access to good spells. So I wanted to take a quick moment and take a look at some of the spells that are available to us right now with the standard rotation that are really going to shine in Jaya's kit. If you have enough tricolored cards, Meeting of the Five is a phenomenal option for this planeswalker. It fetches multiple cards, right, up to 3 that have 3 colors exactly. So Meeting of the Five can put in a lot of work for you, especially in this deck where you're going to be able to fetch it really, really easily. And with this deck, I mean with this planeswalker. Explosive Singularity is another one that's really powerful right now with Jaya. It has the Convoke 5, which is going to go down with Jaya's third ability, creating up to, I think it's the 5 or 6 monk tokens anyways. So yeah, 6. So that's going to take care of the Convoke and turn this into a 6 mana spell with Jaya's first ability granting 6 mana. This basically just becomes a free fetch and then burn for 10 to any target, which is really, really useful. I found myself using that a lot as sort of removal. You've got the charms, but in terms of which charms are going to be the best for Jaya, I really like the Maestro's charm because it gives you a combination of fetch, life gain, and removal to opponents' vanguards and creatures, which is definitely really, really useful. And then the Riveteer's charm is also pretty good, as it's going to have just straight up removal with black gems on the board. And so red doesn't typically have that much access to just firm removal, and you are going to get that from Riveteer's charm. And so another thing that I really like is that between the Maestros and Riveteer's charm, those are both uncommon, so that gives you some really good options outside of the rare and masterpiece range for really powerful spells to be using in conjunction with the Jaya's kit. You've also got Alchemist's Gambit, which is a phenomenal rare. It's going to be giving your creatures double strike. It's going to be giving you more swaps, so that's always a good thing to have. And then, of course, Jaya is red, so you're also going to have access to things like Demolish in order to get rid of your opponent's supports. There really isn't very much from the new set that's going to do very much for Jaya's kit. I did sort of enjoy using Twinferno in my Pauper build because it gives you additional copies, and then it can also give creatures you control double strike. So either way, you're going to be able to get something really useful out of this card, and I did really like it for that. However, I do feel that there are better options for you to put into your spell slots. Gem conversion is kind of hurting with the standard rotation and us losing access to land forming as a mechanic, along with a few land cycles that converted to a single color. So at this point in time, we really only have one land cycle for every color that's going to convert, and that's going to be for red, the Sokenzan Crucible of Defiance. However, monocolor walkers have a little bit of an advantage in that we've actually got a bunch of these convert to your Planeswalker color lands, specifically 2 of them that I want to point out. Both Secluded Courtyard, which is going to convert 2 to 3 colors to your Planeswalker's colors, and then also Roadside Reliquary, which is going to convert to. So if you're running a monocolor walker like Jaya, you're still able to run 3 land converters if you have all 3 of them. At the very least, Roadside Reliquary and Secluded Courtyard are both uncommons, so they're definitely going to be a lot more accessible for you to pick up. And then conveniently, all 3 of those lands also happen to be from the same set. So as long as you focus for that set, you should wind up picking them up, and you're going to give Jaya an absolutely phenomenal boost, especially because she's got that +9 to her mana bonuses. I would strongly recommend that any deck you can, you run these 3 lands, the Secluded Courtyard, along with the Roadside Reliquary, and then also Sokenzan from the Kamigawa set, I believe it is right here. So just one more look at Sokenzan over here. In terms of creatures that are going to pair really well with Jaya, you're generally going to want to go with the stronger creatures that you control. You can go for some synergy with her abilities and the tokens and spells. I happen to really like using Lord Xander. Xander is just a really, really powerful card, and especially with the standard rotation, the extra control that this thing provides is really good. This card happens to have a full art variant, so if you haven't had the fortune of pulling Xander by himself, it is worth picking up the full art variant of this one. Other cards that are going to pair really well with Jaya, we've got this new Storm Runner that's kind of fun to be run with Jaya, because you're going to copy the first spell card in your hand with full mana every time this thing attacks. So you could just keep a spell card locked at full mana in your hand. The second ability gives you a spell with full mana anyways. You actually get 2 copies of it. So if you just disable 1 copy, you can just get another pseudo free copy of that every single turn, which is pretty useful. This is, especially if you're familiar with the card Jaleva, it's kind of like a cheaper version of that. You can run some of the origin stuff, things that destroy gems like Avaricious Dragon or the Monk or the Volcanic Rambler, right? The Abbot of Carol Keep. These are going to destroy gems, which is going to get you loyalty, which is going to pump out Jaya's abilities more quickly, which is very useful. If you want stuff that's going to pair with the tokens, you can run stuff like Creepy Puppeteer. This is what I'm running in the video. I really enjoy this card, and having tokens to boost with the Puppeteer, it's always nice. I always like being able to do that. So that's another really good option that you can use. Red is currently struggling a lot with card draw. So if you wanted to throw something like Ziatora's Envoy in, this would definitely get you quite far because it's going to draw you cards and give them mana. So between the abilities of Jaya, fetching spells and getting you to play them for free, and then Ziatora's Envoy drawing and giving mana to the other cards that you might want to cast, that can really put in a heck of a lot of work for you as well. If you're looking for a cheaper option that's going to be useful with your tokens, there's this new uncommon Tori de Avenant Fury Rider, which is going to make it so that creatures you control get +1/+1 for each of their reinforcements until end of turn. So you could wind up running something like this with a bunch of spells, as Jaya's passive is going to play a monk token for the first spell you play in each turn. And so between Jaya's third and the passive, you should get a bunch of those monk tokens down, and then you can use this to boost them and just sort of have like, a cheaper way of getting more out of those tokens, which is always really, really nice. We don't always want to have to rely on the really expensive things. And then beyond that, you've got other stuff that's going to mess with tokens, things like Jetmir Nexus of Revels, which can give everything double strike if you've got 8 or more creature cards, including their reinforcements, as double strike is always a very powerful thing to have at your disposal. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, you could wind up running something like Volcanic Rambler just to get yourself a little bit more gem destruction, to be able to get a little bit more loyalty and spam out Jaya's abilities a little bit quicker, as all 3 of Jaya's abilities are really good. I use all 3 of them regularly, so that's a really nice feature of this Planeswalker. The way that you get Jaya at the time of my recording this video is by purchasing her from the vault for $25 US, or some rough conversion to your currency. If you choose to buy her for money, you're going to get Jaya, you're going to get mana jewels, mana crystals, some runes, and 3 of these red booster packs. The red booster packs just have a bunch of different red cards from the set, so that will help you build out Jaya a little bit better. And then in terms of the odds, these are summative odds, right? It's for all 3 packs. Each individual pack does not have these odds. So this is your odds of getting any one of these rarity cards from the totality of the purchase. Now, I've gone over all the different stuff about Jaya that I want to go over for the beginning bit of this video. So for this next bit, I want to focus on gameplay so you guys can see Jaya and her abilities in action. This first match is definitely my more rare, mythic, and masterpiece heavy deck. And so with this particular build, you're going to get a better idea of just how powerful Jaya can be if you have access to everything. So you'll see that I'm running the gem converters like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I'm actually running all 3 of them. And then along with those converters, I am running the Chrome Mox. And I'm doing that just because you want to be able to play as much as possible. And so the Moxes are some of the cards that have gotten significantly stronger with the standard shift because there just isn't quite as much gem conversion. So I'm also running Pyromancer's Goggles in this particular version of the deck because I wanted to be able to get out my spells as quickly as possible. I'm only running 2 spells in this particular iteration of the deck. I'm running Meeting of the 5, and then I'm running one of the charms as well. And I'm doing that just because I want to try and make sure that I'm getting the charms as often as possible. You'll also see that I'm running the Creepy Puppeteer. The Creepy Puppeteer just happens to be a really cool card to run with tokens. And so since I enjoy the card so much myself, I'm running it in this deck, right? The idea is that this deck is mostly just supposed to be a deck that I have fun with. It's, you know, general giggles. So I'm going to go ahead, pop one of the bubbles from Pyromancer's Goggles. You'll see that I get one of the monk tokens because you get one of those tokens for the first spell that you play in any given turn. And then I'm going to have the puppeteers give the tokens haste and swing at my opponent. So you'll also notice that I'm already at my second ability with Jaya. I'm waiting until I get to my third because I do want to try and pop my third to get extra tokens on the battlefield. I really like having all of my tokens down. So I've actually got two pretty intriguing possible matches here for this turn, but I am going to ultimately go for the landfall match that still gets me one of my spells. I'm going to cast the Charm here. I actually get to pick which one of these 4 cards I want. I might as well take another Xander because Xander's fantastic. I'm going to get another Monk token, and then those are just going to start pumping up really quickly, especially with the Puppeteer down on the battlefield. And you'll also see that I've got access to my third ability now as well. So this game will end pretty quickly. My opponent does get the Faith Bond Judge token down, but I'm actually going to go ahead and have my Saga get rid of that because we don't want any of that nonsense on the battlefield. I'm going to get another Xander down, and I'm actually going to be getting hopefully 2 Xanders down this turn. If I get a meeting of the 5, we'll have to see. It's another Masterous Charm, which, you know, a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. So we're going to get the Charm down. It's going to give us some extra life, but that should be enough to kill my opponent, I think, because I'm going to swing for 52. Oh, 12. Not quite. It was almost enough to kill the Grandmaster of Flowers. I almost called him Gauze Master of Flowers just because of Gauze's love of this Planeswalker and his little icon that he's got going. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and swing for the win this turn. So we're going to go ahead, make our match, and then after we make the match, hopefully we get some goodies and we're able to kill my opponent here. I'm just checking out what I have. I know that I'm going to win either way. I should honestly just go for the quick match and then call it a win. But of course, I'm going to be silly about things because, well, why not? It's always fun to be silly about things. The Masterous Charm goes through. I get even more of my Monk tokens. I'm going to modify the stats, but we won't get to see the modified stat. And that is all she wrote. This next match is actually going to be a longer match. This is my match with my Pauper deck. I didn't even wind up making it Pauper Plus this time. I just made it pure Pauper. And I wanted to include this match, even though it's a significantly longer match, because I feel like it gives you a really good idea of how well Jaya can play, even when she's entirely overwhelmed. So you'll see that I've actually got some pretty good cards in here. I've got the Converters, I've got Demolish, and I've got that beautiful elemental with stored mana on it as well, the Magma Pummeler. So here I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to freeze one of my Pummelers down. I'm going to go ahead, start making matches, and then I'm going to hold off on playing the Pummeler this turn. Bolas winds up getting a pretty decent match right there, which is fine. I picked up my first copy of Twinferno, so I am going to want to make sure that I get more out of that as we go. And at this point, I'm just scanning the board, and there's no way that I can avoid having my red gems destroyed there, so I did have to go ahead and take that. And then this is where things start to get a little bit out of hand for me, because my opponent gets a pretty massive cascade with a bonus swap. My opponent has yet another bonus swap with even more cascade. And then my opponent gets even more sweet goodness with 2 Avaricious Dragons, another bonus swap yet again, more card draw, more mana, and now uses the second ability to get the zombie tokens out. And so at this point, you might be thinking, well, this has got to be game over. And I honestly thought that here too, because I was like, I don't see how I can reasonably come back from this. But nonetheless, I'm going to try. I'm going to drop down a Magma Pummeler here. And I'm going to do my best to come back. I wind up giving my opponent a 5 swap, which is just dreadfully foolish of me. But my opponent makes a pretty big goof there and destroys their own Avaricious Dragon. So that gives me a little bit more hope. It means I can maybe do something. And I get Burn Down the House, which is a decent removal card to be running if you don't have access to a lot. You'll see that I'm going to be activating my first ability here. And I'm doing this because I want A, the gem conversion, and B, I want another copy of Burn Down the House as well, just so I can start getting rid of my opponent's board. The more that I can get rid of, the better. So here I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to burn down the house twice, and that's actually going to go ahead and wipe my opponent's side of the board. So it's going to get rid of all of their zombie tokens, and it's also going to get rid of the Flesh Bag Marauder as well. So my opponent's got a removal card in their hand, which is totally fine. We're going to obviously have nothing to do about that, but we let it go. And then I'm going to move my converter up in my hand, the relic, and then see what my opponent wants to do. So my opponent wants to play more zombie tokens, which I don't like. My opponent wants to get rid of the spells that I'm charging up in my hand, which means I'm losing yet another Maestro's Charm. And I don't particularly like that my opponent is doing that either. So I've got a few options here for matches. I am going to take the red match here. I'm going to use my Maestro's Charm. Here I'm actually going to take Najal, the Storm Runner, because if I can start getting a spell in my hand with full mana and then just start getting free copies of it, that could be a way to sort of claw myself back into the game here, which would be really nice. And I'm gifted also a 5-match in white by Bolas here, so I might as well potentially take that right now too. Now here you're going to see me use my second ability, and so you'll see that I'm getting 2 free copies here of Burn Down the House from my second ability. And now I'm actually going to freeze down one of them because I want Najal to be able to copy it. And I don't wind up taking, by the way, the 5-match there. I know that was, somewhat foolish, but I did get a red match out of it, and red is always going to be the best for Jaya. So looks foolish, but it actually sort of turns out okay, beyond that, Bolas gets yet another 5-match here because that just kept happening in this particular game. So Bolas is going to get 2 more Marauders down. Bolas is going to get another 8/8 worth of zombie token down. Bolas is going to get an Abbot down. And so things are just, once again, spiraling out of control for me here. I've got to burn down the house again to do 5 damage to my opponent's critters. I've actually got 2 of them, so I could wipe my opponent's entire board state here if I'm able to cast both of them. But, of course, I can't. So my next best move here is probably going to be to get as much loyalty as I can so I can start using Jaya's abilities more, because her first ability is going to convert gems to red, and her second ability is going to enable me to get free stuff. So I'm going to do that exactly. I'm going to go ahead, burn down the house just to get some extra damage on everything. And then, of course, I get a red match, but it's given to my opponent, who goes through yet another crazy cascade, gets yet another creature down. And my opponent is at 128 health. I'm at 37. And just the whole time I'm playing from behind here, right? Like, even though I'm making play after play and getting rid of my opponent's stuff, I'm still having a little bit of bad news bears time here. So I actually wind up taking the Twinferno because I recognize that Burn Down the House has 12 mana required for cast, and with a red match I'll be able to cast it. So I was kind of gambling here on being able to make a red match, and that worked out in my favor. So I'm going to have Twinferno make a copy of Burn Down the House, and then I'm going to burn down the house to remove my opponent's entire board. And then I get to start swinging at my opponent again. I'm kind of hoping that my opponent does not make the zombie tokens here, because, those zombie tokens aren't very nice to me. And so now here, I've got more difficult decisions to make again, because I really don't have too many options available to me. I don't have the loyalty to be able to spam out abilities. And so here I was just sort of hoping that I'd be able to get my converters down, and those converters would hopefully enable me to cast more of my hand, as we see my opponent once again completely fill out their board with creatures and kill my tokens. And so Bolas is just absolutely running wild here. Still, I've got to burn down the house that I can use, and I've got 2 Rockos as well, which is pretty good. So here I'm just sort of hoping that I can get something useful. I've got another Twinferno, so that's probably going to be my best bet, because I will be able to make a red match, and I will be able to cast the Burn Down the House. But I wind up actually taking the Mastros. I really should have taken the Twinferno here. I think that that would have actually been the better play of the two. You know, just hindsight 2020. But I do take the Mastros Charm, and I finally luck out and get a 5 match myself. So Burn Down the House is going to get rid of all of my opponent's creatures. I'm going to wipe the board of all of their stuff yet again. And then I've got a Mastros Charm here where I get to pick something. So I'm actually going to pick... I think I picked the Twinferno here, just so that I can get it out of my deck. And then hopefully if I wind up being able to get anything else, I can take advantage of that as well. Just a spell. I only need 1 more mana for the Pummeler, so I might as well drop it down here. No reason not to. And then I've actually got another Rocco that I can play, which is really nice because the first of my elementals is setting the X for all other copies of the elemental I play. So as long as I have enough for stored mana for 1 mana, right? 1 mana overstored so that I can pick up another one of these elementals. It should be getting another 14 power for fetching it. So I am going to take another Magma Pummeler. It is going to cast. It should go to another 14 power. It actually gets 15 power here. It winds up getting the maximum. So that definitely is finally a break in my favor. I will use the Relic of Legends here. It's going to freeze down my Cabaretti dude, but it's going to do so to convert gems for me. And I absolutely want to be converting more gems here because the more mana I have, the more I'm going to have at my disposal to do things. And really, the match is finally starting to go a little bit in my favor here, just because I have the 29-31 on the battlefield. And while I have 25 life and my opponent has 115 life, which obviously is really not that great, I do have the better battlefield position going right now. And so long as I get something removal wise out of these, I should be in a pretty good position. So I've got the Twinferno in my hand, so I just need to get 3 mana on the Mastros Charm, which means I can make any color match that I want in order to do that, because all of Jaya's mana bonuses that aren't red are neutral, which is really nice. Neutral meaning you're just going to get 3 mana for them. So I'm going to move Twinferno up here, just so that I get the Monk token first instead of getting the support first. So I get another Monk token, which means that all other supports and spells that I play will give a power toughness boost of 2 to my little guys. I'm going to go ahead and use my charm here. I'm going to get to pick any one of these 4 cards. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pick another one of these little lightning runnery dudes. I'm gaining some life also from those charms, which is really useful as my opponent once again gets rid of my monks. I'm going to have the option to use my Relic of Legends, but in this case, I don't actually want to use it because I can actually just freeze down my Mastros Charm and then have Najal start giving me free spells every turn, which means that I can actually get a free Mastros Charm every single turn from this point forward, so long as Najal stays on the battlefield, and that's absolutely what I'm going to do. So Najal is going to get me a free Mastros Charm, and unless Bolas goes absolutely crazy here, then I'm finally going to get to win the game. So I'm not going to use the Relic this turn because I am able to kill my opponent if I don't. I've got 2 Mastros Charms that I can drop if I want to, just to get some extra damage for fun on my opponent. And so while I could use abilities, I'm actually just going to go ahead, gain a little bit of extra life, and end the game here. Kill my opponent. I will, however, take 1 more Magma Pummeler just because I want to make my Magma Pummeler a bit thicker. So I'm going to go ahead, play the Rocco, get another Pummeler, play the Pummeler, get it up to 44 power, and kill off my opponent. Very good game. In conclusion, I really like Jaya Fiery Negotiator. I thought I was going to like her coming into the set, and then after having a chance to play with her, I really, really like this Planeswalker. She is at least an A-tier Planeswalker for me personally. I love playing monocolor walkers, as I have expressed many times. I love the really high mana bonus of +9 to red. You can really get a lot out of her kit with it. I feel like all 3 of her abilities are useful, and they are reasonably costed as well. So there are going to be instances in which you are going to want to use all 3 of her abilities, and I really like that because I feel like more and more of our walkers are getting designed to use just 1 or 2 of the abilities. So all 3 of them are good. The passive is good. Everything about this Planeswalker is good. This Planeswalker should be available to you all if you don't want to buy her for money in the next few weeks for 295 mana crystals. So I would definitely suggest that you go ahead and pick up this walker, especially if you like spell-based decks, especially if you, like me, enjoy using monocolored Planeswalkers. She's not as powerful as, say, Dakon, but that's to be expected from a situation like this, right? She's not the singular most powerful Planeswalker in the game, but she is definitely a very powerful Planeswalker, a very great addition to the Puzzle Quest lineup, and so she is really, really fun and strong to go with the fun. So definitely pick her up when you have the chance, either buy her for money or crystals. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.